What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Microsoft Flight Sim 2020. Today we're going to be flying the PMDG 737 from Cleveland, Ohio to Tampa, Florida. It looks like it's gonna be pretty clear skies. I am flying a real flight, but I made the flight on SimBrief, and I changed it to United Airlines because whatever airline it was, I didn't actually have delivery for. So I don't remember what airline it was, but I do know it's flight number 2437. I'll see if I can find it and link it in the description if you want to see the actual flight. But I don't remember which airline it was to figure out which flight it was. However, pretty easy flight. I'll pull over the graph here so you can see where we're flying. Pretty straightforward from Cleveland all the way down to Tampa. We are going to be flying a departure and an arrival. A couple jetways right here and right here. But yeah, it should be a pretty good flight. We are flying real time and we are flying real weather. I haven't done anything, so we'll go ahead and jump inside the plane. Also, this is the Cleveland scenery, so let me jump back out here. I do have the actual scenery for this airport, which is why everything looks a lot nicer here. Let's jump inside and we'll start with our pre-flight checklist. First thing we have to do is get our park and brake set. We'll go over to our overhead panel. We'll get our battery switch turned on. We'll get our electric hydraulic pumps turned on, and we'll get connected onto the ground power. With that, we will check that our landing gear lever is down, which it is right there. Landing gear lever down. Our position and wing lights can come on. This one is our wing, and our position lights are already on. Our engine bleed switches are on. Our IRSs we can set to nav, which are up here. 1, 2, 1, 2. Our yaw damper can come on. That'll turn off. We'll turn that back on in a minute. Emergency exit lights can come on. No smoking, and seatbelt signs can come on. Flap lever is down. Our speed brake lever is down. Our galley switch is on. Our window heats can come on. Our probe heats can stay off, and we are ready to start putting in our flight plan. First thing we're going to do is we'll go FS actions and we'll go to payload. Our zero fuel weight today is going to be 114.4. So we'll go 114.4. Oh, 114.4. There we go. We'll put that in there. We'll go return. We'll go to fuel, and our block fuel today is 17,523. We'll put that in there. We'll drop it there. And our fuel is set up. We'll go return. I'm going to go to ground services here and see if we can get rid of the staircase and request the jetway. And we can. So there we go. So that's coming in now. All right, so we can jump back down here. We'll go back to return. We'll jump in the FMC and we will start our flight plan. Our reference airport is KCLE. Position in it. We'll drop that there. Go to our second page. We'll grab this guy, jump back, drop that in there. There we are. We'll head over to route. We'll put that in there, and then KTPA. We're flying United Airlines flight number 2437. Drop that in there, and we'll head over to the next page. We're ready to start putting in our flight plan. So first waypoint is going to be APE. From there, we're going to jump on jetway Juliet 83. Juliet 83. We'll put that in there to SPAYD. SPAYD. Spade. And then we'll jump back on Juliet 83 and go to SPA. So SPA, put that. I think we put that one. We'll double check in a minute. Juliet 83. Juliet 83. We'll drop that in there. And then we're direct to TEU FL. TEU FL. We'll drop that there. And then BAAMF. BAAMF. That's our flight plan. So we'll head over to departure and arrival. We're going to be departing on runway 6 left. And we're going to be doing the CAVS 4 departure and the ape transition. So we'll go ahead back to departure arrival. We'll go to arrival. We're going to be arriving runway 19 left, ILS 19 left. And it's going to be the Dades 9 for, yep, this one right here. Dades 9 and the BAMF, however you say that, transition. We'll head back over to route. We'll go to activate. We'll go to execute. We'll head to legs. We'll check that there's no discontinuities in here. There's some vectors there. We'll hold off on that. That looks fine. We'll jump back to legs. We're going to jump out of here and set this to plan mode. And we're going to step our way through here. Make sure everything is correct. Alright, then from here, we will vector ourselves over and land on the runway. Everything looks good to me. Go back to map mode. We'll leave that there for now. Pull this guy over here. Runway 19 left. We're going to open this up and... oh, no, you know what? Hold on. Let's wait on that. Let's jump back down here and do init ref. Zero fuel weight again was 114.4. 114.4. We'll drop that in there. We did 1,000 pounds in reserves. We'll do a cost index of 3.5. Our altitude is going to be flight level 370. And our cruise winds, give me a second here. Let's see it. 370 is 305 at 070. So 375 at 070. All right. That's that right? At 37. Oh, 305. There is no 375. At 070. There we go. That'll be our cruise winds. So we'll go ahead and execute, which is what I tend to forget to do sometimes there, and then our VNAV doesn't work. So we'll jump here. We'll do our takeoff configuration 1. We'll go to takeoff. Let's get our MEDAR for here. It is 200 at 9 knots. So let me jump to the second page. We'll do 200 at 9. That's going to be our runway winds. We'll go back. We're going to do flaps 5, which will give us our trim, which is 5.5. Our V1, VR, and V2 speeds. And everything looks good there. So 135 is going to be that speed. Our altimeter here is 2982. So we'll set that now. 2982. There we are. This is going to go to 135. There we are. We got that set to 135. All right, now we can jump over here and to take a look at runway 19 left. So approach and 19 left. Here is our ILS frequency, our approach course, our airport elevation, and our barometer information. So we'll put all that stuff into the plane here. First thing I want to do before I forget is set this to 370. And this can stay at 0 because the airport altitude was 26 feet. So we can just leave that there. All right, so we'll jump down here to our radios, and it's going to be 110.3 on our nav frequency. So 110.3 and 110.3. We'll send that back. I clicked over to this channel so I don't hear like ATIS and stuff when we take off. So this isn't the actual channel I'm going to be listening to. All right, final approach course. Let's jump back up here. Is going to be 187. And if that song didn't pop in your head, it's a 187 on an undercover cop. All right, 187. All right, there we go. Let's see down here. Our landing altitude for if we were to do a Cat 2 approach would be 100 on the radio and 126 on the barrel. So we're going to do barrel. We're going to do 126. There we are. 126 is set. I think everything on this chart is where we need it to be. So we can go ahead and we'll come over here. We'll set this to 370. 370. And let's take a look here on our Cavs 4 from runway 6 left. Climb on a heading of 058, and that is going to be our heading. We would usually be cleared up to 14,000 from there, but we'll set our heading to 058 for now. So we'll move this back over and we'll set this to 058. All right, there we are. So I think we're ready to move on to our before start checks. Our FMC is programmed. We'll come over here and we'll get our flight directors turned on. 1 and 2 can come on. Our auto throttle switch will stay off. Our Mach indicator set. Heading selector is set. Altitude selector is set. Autopilot disengage bar is up. Thrust levers are idle. Stabilizer trim was 5.5. What am I doing here? There we go. All right, so we'll move that down to 5.5. There's 5. And there's about 5.5. Auto brakes we can set to RTO. And we can go to the overhead panel here and get our APU started. So we'll go ahead and go APU start. APU bleed can come on. And our transponder we can get set to standby and we can test it. We run the test on that. By the way, when we did our pre-flight checks, we didn't do our alarm check. So let's check that these lights come on. Lights come on up there. Let's do our fire warning test. Everything seems good there. We'll check these lights here, make sure these guys are working. Yes and yes. We'll go to overhead panel here. We'll go up here. Everything seems to be working here. We'll get our yaw damper turned on now. And I think I just disengaged the parking brake by accident. I did. I hit my my rudder pedals and disengaged that. All right, so we're waiting for our APU to come on, which it probably is on. Yes, it is, and we can go on to our APU generator. Right, APU bleed switch on, APU generator switches on. Oh, that's not what I wanted. On and on. So we're now off the ground power. So our before pushback checks, we are using our center tank, but not much. Pretty much right after takeoff, we'll be turning them off. So we will go fuel pump switches turn to on. APU generator switches are on. Seatbelt signs are on. Flight deck doors and windows are locked. Ground equipment. We will go ahead and get disconnected here. We'll go FS actions, ground services. We will release our ground power and we will remove our wheel chocks, which will also get rid of the jetway, close the door, and get everything ready to go here. Our anti-collision lights can come on, which are these ones. And with that being said, I think we are ready for a pushback. So let's find out where we are and where we're going. We're going to runway 6 left. We'll check out the taxi chart. Let's see if we can, there we go, get our location. So we're right here. Runway 6 left is right here. So we will taxi Kilo, cross runway 6 right, or no. We'll go Kilo, Lima. I guess we could take Lima all the way down to Lima 2 and then cross 6 right and jump on 6 left. Yeah, looks like that's probably what we'll do. All right, we're ready for our pushback. So we'll go ahead and set this igniter or ignition. We'll do the right one today. We can call for a pushback. And while that is on the way, we will get our left engine going. We'll go ahead and release our parking brakes so that they can push us back. We're looking for 18%. on our N2. And we'll feed it some fuel. There it is. We'll give it some fuel. We'll jump into a wing view here. Let me see if I can get a... There you go. You can hear the engine starting up. And there's our pushback. We are going to get out of here. So we'll push back onto this taxi line. United Airlines. All right, that engine should be good to go. We'll get our second engine going. Again, looking for 18% on our N2. And then we'll feed it some fuel. 17 and 18. There we go. We'll give it the fuel. We're almost done our pushback here. Keep pushing back. All right, we'll go Shift P. We'll stop it there. We'll set our parking brake. We'll let the engine finish coming up, and then we will do our after start checks. Should be stabilizing here in just a second. There it is. All right, our after start checks. We'll go to the overhead panel. Engine generator switches 1 and 2 can come on. 1 and 2. Our APU bleed switch can come to off. Our APU can come off as well. Our probe heat switches 1 and 2 can come on. 1 and 2. Our master caution recall. No warnings or alerts. Anti-ice we don't need. Jump back up here. Packs can be set to auto. Isolation valve can be set to auto. And taxi clearance and transponder squawk mode C, which is TARA. We'll set that there. We'll jump back over here. And we are ready for our taxi. So we will get our taxi lights turned on. We'll get our runway turn off lights turned on. We'll set our flaps to flap 5. And there they are. You can see the flaps extending there. All right, we'll jump back up here. And our flight controls, we will check. So we have forward, backward, left, right, and rudder. And I think also there was a, I'm not sure where the buttons are, but there's a way to put our flight controls up on this screen here. And while I'm thinking of it, let me set this back to legs. We are going to climb out and go to Nance. Okay. I don't remember where the button is to bring my flight controls up here. It's not engine. It's not engine related. System, hydraulics. No, I'm sorry. I don't remember the button. We'll turn traffic on and we can turn terrain on as well. Fuel. Yep. We're ready to switch these pumps off, I believe. Let me take a look. Pretty much. So we'll go ahead and click these off. And we are now just using our outer wings. We're not using our center tanks anymore. All right. We're ready to start taxiing. So again, we're going to taxi. I believe we're just going to follow this one out into Lima, which runs parallel to the runway. So like right up here. Yep. All right. Brakes can come off. We'll give it a little bit of throttle. We'll give it left rudder. Get that left turn going. And we will taxi our way out to the runway. If you guys are enjoying this, be sure to leave a like, drop a comment. Let me know if there's somewhere you want me to fly. I'm not an actual pilot by any means in real life, so I'm sure there's things that I'm probably doing wrong or maybe something that I'm missing. Feel free to let me know. But also know that I'm just a hobbyist at doing this. I was never trained in flying or anything like that. All right, so I believe that this taxiway is going to be our Kilo taxiway and should take us right down to Lima. We'll take Lima all the way down, cross 6 right, and line up onto 6 left. Here's a wing view of this scenery here. It looks very realistic. Looks very, very good. I like how the gates are labeled so bright and, you know, they're just so obvious. Looks very nice. Looks like we got a fire truck or some kind of fire response vehicle over here. It's probably the firehouse of the airport. That's pretty cool. There it is right there. Not something you see on every airport, so that's pretty nice. I like that. Try and get back on this line here. All right, so we'll just continue following this. There it is, Kilo written on the ground there. So we are on the Kilo taxiway. We're going to continue forward here. I can see NASA written up on the building out there. That's pretty neat. I also saw this IX Center, International Exposition Center. So yeah, this airport is definitely modeled really well. A lot of fancy little things that you don't see at every airport. NASA, I didn't know NASA had like a center here or whatever that is. That's pretty neat. Let's get our speeds up a little bit and get back on the center line. We're going to be making this next left up here onto Lima. It is about 7 p.m. So I don't know if we're going to land in the daytime. We might end up landing in the nighttime. But we'll see. So we're going to make this next left onto Lima. Oh, Lima all the way down to 6 right. And that's where we're going to get onto our 6 left runway. All right. So we're going to make our left here. This is Kilo, and we're turning on to Lima. As indicated by that sign just off to the left there. Yellow background, black lettering, or vice versa. Lima. That lets us know what taxiway we're on. Give a little more throttle. There's the NASA Center out there. It's off to our left here. All right. Taxiing gets a little bit strange up here. So we're going to go to the left here and follow that around. I mean, we could also cross here. And go on to November. But I think we're going to follow it down to Lima 2 and cross at Lima 2. So Lima 1 would be to line up on the runway. Lima 2 is going to be to cross the runway. So we'll take this left here. And we'll just keep taxiing our way down. I will also put timestamps as usual in the video. That way, if you want to skip the taxiing or, you know, go to specific parts, you can jump right to them. Go ahead and speed up a little bit here. I think that's a de-icing pad right there. I think that's a de-icing area, maybe, if I read that right. All right, we should be off the ground here in just a couple minutes. Papa right here is another cross point. Not going to cross here, though. We're going to continue down to Lima 2, which is going to be our next right. right, coming up here on Lima 2. We'll make our right, cross, and finally get ourselves onto the runway. All right, make this right turn here. We're gonna cross runway 6 right. So go ahead and give it a little throttle. Get ourselves across this runway here. There's a wing view down the runway. All right, and we're gonna make our first left right here, and then our next right, and we will be on our runway. A little bit longer of a taxi than usual today, but that's all right. We'll head over to the left onto Golf 2, or I guess this is Golf. To the right is Golf 2, and we're going to Golf 1. All right, finally we have approached our runway. We finally made it over here, so we're gonna hold short of the runway. We'll do our quick before takeoff checks, and we'll get lined up and get out of here. We should be out of here in the next minute or two. Turn to the right. All right, we'll start putting some brakes in, and a little strong on the brakes there. All right, before takeoff checks, our auto throttle needs to come on. Our engine start switches need to be set to continuous. Our master caution recall, we are solid. And our transponder we've done. Our landing lights and strobe lights, they can come on. So that's on. And also, real quick, I'm gonna get our panel lights on, because once we are flying and in the time lapse, I think we're gonna be flying right into dusk. So I don't want to interrupt the time lapse and have to do all this. So let's just get all this stuff on now real quick. We'll jump down here. We'll get a little bit of floodlight. And we'll get our panel lights turned up here. And there we are. So we are all set for when the sun starts to set. All right, we'll release our brake. We'll give it a little throttle. And we'll get ourselves out on the runway here. And we'll get out of here. There we are. We'll pull back our throttles. We'll just drift our way out here. And there we are. 6 left. We are ready for departure. Runway looks great. Textures look awesome. The sun looks good. I'm excited to fly up above these clouds. All right, and we're ready for takeoff. We'll go ahead and hit our toga button. And we will listen for our call outs and try and keep her on the center line. Cross checked.
E1.
Rotating.
Positive rate of climb.
Gear up. And we'll get our flap set to 1. There's the airport out there. And flaps can come all the way in. We'll go LNAV, VNAV, and we'll activate our autopilot. Go back into VNAV here. We'll set this down. Go into a wing view here. Take a look at the area as we fly out of it. Very, very good departure there. We'll do our after takeoff checks here in just a second. Let's just let the plane fly for a second. I think if we take a look out the left side, if we could see over there, I think downtown Cleveland's out there. All right, after takeoff checks, landing gear is up, flaps are retracted or up, I guess. Taxi light switches can come off. Autopilot we have set, and auto brakes can be set to off. There we are. We're jumping another wing view here. Beautiful departure. Very smooth, very nice departure. I feel like that departure went smoother than usual. Knock on wood. Let's hope that nothing bad happens now that I said that, but here we are at 5,800. And it looks like the plane is doing something, holding its altitude at 6,000. And then we'll cross that waypoint and we'll be cleared up to 10,000. So the plane is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. We're leveled off at the base of the clouds here. In just a second, we'll start climbing again. We're going to cross this waypoint in about 2.7 nautical miles. It's very cool how it's holding its constraint and everything as it's supposed to on the departure. Obviously, it's going to, but it's just nice when it does that. Just barely getting into the clouds here. Sounds like our engines are spooling up, which means we're going to start climbing again. There we are. We've started climbing. And I think our speeds are cleared up to 288. Go ahead and turn off the, well, I guess we'll leave terrain on for now, even though there's not a whole lot going on. And into the clouds we go. Now we're climbing quick. All right, our climb checks will be landing lights can come off, and our engine starts can come off. Anti-ice we didn't have on. Crossing that 10,000 here, we'll go ahead and toggle off our landing lights. And we'll continue climbing up. Also, we can toggle off our seatbelt sign. No longer need seatbelts. Keep on climbing up. Right through these clouds. I'm not sure how high the clouds are. I'd have to look at the ATIS again, but it doesn't look like they're too high. We're going up to 370, so we'll be way above them before we know it. In this flight, we're looking at about 2 hours and 5 minutes airtime. Obviously, that would be a lot quicker in the time lapse for you, but that's about how long I'm looking at. Adios, Cleveland. We are on our way to Tampa, where the humidity will dehydrate you in 3 minutes. Anyway, I'm going to stick with you guys until about 18,000. Once we hit our transition altitude, we'll set the barometer to standard, and we'll jump in the window and do a time-lapse view. Time-lapse view will be this view today. Hope you guys are enjoying that view. If you guys ever want me to go back to a wing view, just let me know. I'd be happy to do that. But I think the front window looks better, personally. Everything's going pretty good. I'm in through 14,500. There we are, breaking up above the clouds here. You see some of the ground down there, get an idea how high we are. Crossing over 16,500. Playing with the terrain here. I guess when you change the zoom, it turns off the terrain. All right, terrain's on again. I just want to see if it'll paint it. Maybe we're too high for terrain. I don't know. I guess at some point the terrain wouldn't work. Oh, there it goes. It gives us an idea of the terrain outside, you know, where the mountains and everything are. But there we are, crossing over 18,000. Go ahead and set this back to standard mode. We'll turn the terrain off. We'll set this down to about 40 miles, I mean. And we'll go ahead and jump in the window view. And I'll check back with you guys when we are closer to our descent. I hope you guys enjoy the flight. Alright guys, welcome back. We have started our descent. We are at 30,000. We are climbing down to 6,000, I believe, is where we're going to be going down to. Flight went pretty well. I don't have any complaints. Let's get some of these lights turned down a little bit. I think I turned them up a little bit too bright. We did have some turbulence though. If you go back and watch, I'm not sure if you'll see it in the time lapse, but we did have some interesting turbulence. It was a little wicked there for a minute. Plane was jumping around and, you know, getting tossed around a bit, but we're doing just fine. Let's take a look at a wing view. You can see the sunset, you know, it's below the horizon out there. We are coming in over Tampa here shortly. I'd say about 15 minutes we'll be down on the ground. Like I said, we began our initial descent. We do have everything set up for our approach. I think we'll jump on the ILS when we can, and we'll let the plane follow our approach until we get about, I don't know, maybe 500 feet. We'll probably end up toggling that off and just hand flying it down to the ground. But you can see we are following our descent profile, which is indicated by this magenta diamond or arrow right here. Also, you can see right here, we are following that profile just fine. Down here, these are our waypoints. We're at 279 knots, 280 knots until about Dades. Once we hit the Dades waypoint, let me bring this back up here. Let's take a look at the charts here. This is where we're at on our descent. So once we get down here and start making that turn, that's when our speeds will start slowing down. We need to be at 6,000 by the time we hit Jackball, or whatever that would be, JKBAL. And then we have a vector, so we will vector ourselves to turn onto course, which is that vector that we had earlier on when we were stepping through our flight. Let's take a look here. We'll go next page right here, which we can actually just get rid of the vectors now. We can just go bucks and put that there. We'll go ahead and execute that. If we go into plan mode and we take a look at those steps, as you can see from that waypoint, we'll just head straight into bucks and get locked onto the ILS. So we'll just do that. Normally we would get ATC vectors, but because we're not flying with ATC today, we're just going to vector ourselves. So we're crossing down below 2,300 here in just a minute. As soon as we hit our 18,000, we'll start our descent checks, and we'll start getting that all set up. It is going to be a night landing, as I suspected, so I think that time lapse will look pretty cool because it was nice and sunny when we departed Cleveland, and you'll get to see the whole transition from day to night with some clouds, which is very cool. I think that'll look really neat. I'm excited to look back at that and see how that looked. You can see we're getting closer to the ground here. I think if you look hard enough, you can actually see the water out there. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe it's just me. But yeah, flight went pretty well. It's other than that turbulence, and I haven't seen a lot of turbulence in many of my flights, but there was quite a bit of turbulence. I was actually watching to make sure I didn't have to hand fly, because sometimes the turbulence will jerk you out of autopilot, and luckily that didn't happen today, so we were just fine. Here we are crossing 20,000, coming down on our 18,000. Since we're cleared below that, we can go ahead and put our altimeter in now, which is going to be 299.5. So we'll go ahead and switch this out of standard mode, and we'll go to 299.5. With that being said, we could take a look at our descent checks, which is our landing lights come on. We'll do that at around 10,000. We're not gonna do that just yet. Seatbelt lights, we'll go ahead and toggle on our seatbelt lights, even though we have a little bit more ways to go. We'll just toggle that on now. Air conditioning and pressures, come over here to the overhead panel. Everything there looks fine. Engine and wing anti-ice, we're not using. Transition altitude, we just did. ATIS, we have engine start switches, can go to continuous, and we could jump down here. We'll go to init ref, and we will select 30 degrees at 130 knots is going to be our landing. So we're going to be landing at 135 knots. Let's go ahead and head back to the legs page, and our FMC is set for that arrival. Well, at least that part of it, performance wise. Once we hit below 10,000, we start getting closer to getting locked on our ILS. We'll do our approach checks, which is pretty easy. It's just landing lights, auto brakes, decision height, master caution, missed approach, altitude, speed brakes, flaps, landing gear, and taxi light switches. And we're going to go into this layer of clouds here. Not too far from landing. Welcome to Tampa. I guess I'll say that once we land, but pretty much. Crossing flight level 16,000. I think 16,000. And you can see our right turn up here, and then our left turn. That's going to be where we start looking for our ILS. So not too much longer, we'll be on the ground. I don't think I have the scenery for Tampa, and I don't know if there actually is a scenery for Tampa, but if there is, I don't believe I have it. So it'll be default scenery, which actually, believe it or not, default sceneries aren't too bad. I mean, obviously the custom ones are much better, but the default ones really aren't too bad. So continuing down, crossing 14,500 now. Just getting into these clouds here. I think landing here is going to be very nice. It's going to look very cool in the nighttime. Let's jump over to the left wing. I think the left wing is where you're going to get your view of Tampa. So we'll stick to the left wing now. That way, once we get a little bit closer, you can have a little bit more to see. Maybe you'll see some of the city out there. I'm not sure. Crossing 13,000 now. And we'll go ahead and get our landing lights turned on since we are about to be at 10,000. We'll get our auto brake set to... Why am I brain farting right here? We're gonna set to medium. And master caution. We don't have any alarms or alerts. We're solid. Getting underneath these clouds here. Looking like it's going to be a pretty nice approach. Knock on wood. Let's hope so. Following our descent rate pretty well. We haven't deviated from it at all. Usually we deviate from it a little bit once we start slowing down, which I believe we're going to start slowing down here in a minute. You'll start seeing this right here. This magenta arrow will start going down, which you'll probably see here in just a second. We're about 7 nautical miles. There it goes. So we're starting to slow down. Get our speeds down to 240 below 10,000. I think it's 250 and below. And we're on our way down speed wise. And as you can see, we're falling off of that descent rate just a little bit. But we will fall right back onto that. We'll get back onto that, no problem. About 4 nautical miles, we'll start our right turn. We're gonna be at 6,000 by the time we hit that jackball waypoint. 230 knots at 6,000, and then we will start slowing it down. We gotta be at 3,000 by Bucks. We set our altitude to 2,000. 2,000 is our intercept altitude for the ILS. And yeah, looking pretty good so far. Jumping that wing view again. Starting to see some of the towns and stuff light up down there as we get a little bit closer to the ground. We will continue on descending here. There's our right turn. So right now we're just monitoring the plane, making sure everything is doing what we programmed it to do. And that's about it for now. 230 knots at jackball. So at Bucks we need to be down to 165 knots. Okay. Pretty easy. One of these buttons. Okay, so that's the middle screen. One of these buttons should turn this PFD down. There we go. That's a little bit better. That was pretty bright. We'll toggle on our terrain, although I don't think there's much to see because we're in Florida and it's pretty flat. But we'll see if it draws anything in or not. Nah, not really anything. Just small little dots, but not much to see. Go ahead and toggle that back off. All right, we are following that descent rate pretty well. And our speed should start coming down here again shortly. And once we're down to 230 knots, I'll do the speed intervene and start getting us slowed down. Looks like a little bit of rain, a little precipitation we're going through here. We'll give us a little bit of speed brake just to help our speeds come down, since we're overspeeding a little bit here. And there we are. Our speeds are now slowing down as required. We'll release our speed brake as our speeds come down. All right, and this is our waypoint towards our runway. So we're going to start getting configured here in just a second. We are already slowed down to about 230 knots. We're going to go ahead and go speed intervene. We're going to start bringing it down more. Let's get her down to about 200 if we can. Auto brakes set, master caution recall, and speed brake arm, flaps, landing gear, and taxi lights. We'll do that here shortly. Go ahead and zoom this in a little bit. So we're looking for our, here is our localizer. Coming through a little bit more rain again. You can hear it. There's our runways out there. So we're going to add some speed brakes, see if we can't get these speeds down. We'll get them down to about 195 where we can start doing some flaps. So just working on slowing down the plane here. We're going to start getting fully configured here. A lot of things are probably going to happen pretty quick. Speeds are coming down. And we'll go ahead and introduce a notch of flaps here. Starting to get our localizer, so we'll go ahead and go into approach mode, start paying attention to that. We'll keep bringing our speeds down. We want to get down to 165. Speed brakes are still extended here, or still up, just to help us slow down. All right, we'll go ahead and drop the gear here. We'll get our taxi light switches on as well. All right. And we are locked onto the glide slope. We'll go ahead and put our flaps back up to, or we'll set our flap, or our speed brake. We'll get that set. Flaps we're working on. We'll go ahead and get our flaps extended here. Our landing gear is down, our taxi light switches. We are good to land. Just working on getting our flaps fully extended here. Or flaps 30. There they are. Start bringing our speeds down more. 135 is going to be our landing speed. Let our speeds continue down here. Looking very good so far. Following our glide slope. Flaps are fully extended. Our speed brake is armed. We're just monitoring our speeds here. We're going to keep bringing them down to 135. We'll do 134. And welcome to Tampa. Should be on the ground here in just a minute. Of course, it's always raining out here. Always rain. All right, we're gonna intervene here in a second and hand fly it down. We only got about a 10 knot headwind. It's not too bad. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and disarm the autopilot. And we are now hand flying. We're gonna just continue following our descent rate straight down. We're gonna follow our magenta diamond for our localizer. Let the plane auto manage our speeds. We're gonna level off here a little bit because we went a little bit below the glide slope. And there we are, we're back on track with it. Need to come over to the left a little bit. Back lined up here. That wind is drifting us a little bit. There we are. Looks like we are following our glide slope pretty well.
$100, $50, $30, $20, $10.
And flare. And we are down. We'll nose down. We'll reverse thrust. Bring it back to the center here. And welcome to Tampa. All right, and I believe we're getting off to the right here today. Or maybe not. Maybe we're getting off to the left. I don't know where we're getting off. All right. We got a reverse thrust back off here. Let me see if I can pull up our taxi chart real quick to see where the heck we're supposed to get off. Airport info, and we need to get off to the right. All right, so we'll get off at this next taxiway here. We can get off right here. All right, and we're gonna hold short here. We're gonna stop, put our brake on. Our after landing checks, first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna come up here. We're gonna get this dome light turned on. There we go, so we can see what we're doing. Landing lights can come off, 1 and 2. Auto brakes can be, or wait, strobe lights off, taxi lights on, flaps can go back to normal, speed brake lever can go back down. Engine start switches can go to off. Stabilizer trim is set and APU can come on. APU start, APU bleed switch. You can also jump down here, set this to standby. And that is all set to go. Let's figure out where we are. So it looks like we're just gonna make a right here and follow that right up to our gates, which will be right there. Pretty easy taxi. I gotta remember to start checking the taxi charts before we arrive to figure out where we're supposed to go. That's the second time I did that and wasn't sure. All right, let's give it some throttle. Get it moving. Not a bad landing. I think it could have been a little bit better. We did drift a little bit there because of the wind, and I don't feel like we touched down quite as smooth as we could have. We're gonna go ahead and just cross over runway 10 right here. So we're crossing runway 10 here. Untoggle that off there. We'll keep this going straight. Our APU is probably good to go. All right, so not here, but this next one here, we're gonna make a left. Actually, we'll go down to G2, Golf 2. Our next one will make the left. All right, we'll taxi off here. If you guys enjoyed this, be sure to leave a like. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Brand new channel, so would love to get some growth going here. If there's somewhere you want me to fly, let me know, and I'd be happy to try and do that for you. So we're gonna take this second apron over here, not this one, but that one to the left there. We're gonna start pulling into this one here. There we are. Get our taxi lights off so we're not blinding everybody. Well, as we pull in here, I guess we'll leave that one on. We'll start slowing down here. Let ourselves drift up a little bit. And that's probably good right there. We'll put our brake on. Now we'll get that taxi light off. And we will do our our parking check. So our parking brake, it is set. Our seatbelt signs will go overhead here. No smoking can come off, and seatbelts can come off. APU generator switches can come on. 1, 2. Fuel cutoff switches can come to, or fuel switches can come to cut off. Toggle that off there. We'll jump down here. We'll go into menu, FS actions, ground services. We'll set the chalks. We'll request for our ground power. Once our ground power is connected, we'll be able to request our jetway. And hopefully the jetway will work here today. We can actually get it over here. Sometimes, some airports it doesn't work, I've noticed. Most of them it works, but some of them it doesn't. All right, so we'll click request on that. And oh, I guess it was like already here. I guess it already, when I requested the ground power, it was already on its way over. All right, cool. All right, we got that. We'll head to the overhead panel. We will establish on ground power. We're now on the ground power. We'll get our dome light fully turned on now. All right, with that being said, we can get our APU can go to off. We can set the bleed to off. Packs can go off. Isolation valve will just open. Anti-collision can come off. Wing lights can come off. We'll leave that on. Logo, and we'll actually turn on our wheel well lights. That way the guys underneath can see. We'll get our window heats turned off. Our probe heats turned off. Our fuel pumps can go off. Our yaw damper can go off. We can unarm our emergency lights. We're not going to do that right now, but that is pretty much our turnaround state. There we are in Tampa, Florida, where it's humid as hell and always rains. Hope you guys enjoyed that flight. If you guys did, leave a like, and I will see you guys on the next flight.